Hello everyone, we're here for the 16th episode of the Sanibel Chronicles. I want to welcome the new subscribers, and for the previous subscribers, I'd like to welcome you back. If you have not subscribed yet, please do, because it's essential that I get more subscribers if this channel is to grow. And it takes lots of subscribers and many likes on Facebook to make the channel viable. We're doing pretty good subscriber-wise, but please share this with your friends, relatives, anyone interested in Sanibel Island or Southwest Florida history, and it will make it all more meaningful for all of us, and that includes me, because without some indication of the support, then it may not be too far away that I say it's enough time spent, and I'll go ahead and put a pause on this television channel. I want to take a step back in time and begin my earliest days of actually working with sea turtles. I explained in the last episode how myself and some classmates and friends saved a loggerhead turtle from being killed on Vanderbilt Beach down in Naples. Now, with that statement, you must bear in mind that back in the early 50s, it was legal to take turtles other than during the nesting season. If turtles were captured in the water with a net, hook and line, they were legal take. But they were only protected on the beach, as their eggs were also protected. However, in the summer of 1954, it would have been illegal for anyone to harm that turtle. Now, turtles were still part of the human diet in Southwest Florida back in the early 50s. Well, just about from time immemorial up until the passage of the Endangered Species Act, each summer turtles would be taken from the beaches of Southwest Florida. And I have a long story I could tell you about what happened to one of our Coretta research volunteers on the beach of Southwest Florida, near actually Vanderbilt Beach, when he was tagging a turtle, when some not so savory characters went ahead and waited for the turtle to get in the water, and then they took a high caliber pistol and shot the turtle. And that was legal, because back in the early 70s, if a sea turtle was more than 26 inches long and in the water, it could be legally taken. So if any of you guys out there watching this were among those 4 or 5 people, I wish you all bad luck. That was entirely unnecessary. But that was the mindset of many people here. They had grown up that way. They couldn't understand why these animals must be protected. They were dwindling. They were becoming very fewer in number along these Gulf Coast barrier islands. So something had to be done. So after that episode on Vanderbilt Beach, we started raising so much cane with the politicians from the state legislature all the way down to the county commission in the coastal counties of Florida, and working with other sea turtle people. By 1978, we had the loggerhead sea turtle on the endangered species list. And with the added enforcement of federal agents, we soon knocked the harvesting of loggerhead turtles back to very nearly nothing. So with that objective met, then loggerhead turtles and other sea turtles began to increase in population. And that protection by state and federal law enforcement agencies has certainly added to the reasons that sea turtles, all of the Florida species that nest here, are making a dramatic comeback over the last decade. It's remarkable how they've grown in numbers. Well, when we first began getting interested in sea turtles on Sanibel, I had a little nudge by a gentleman. I'm going to show his picture here, and his name was Ding Darling. Ding Darling was a winter resident of Captiva, and I'm planning a whole episode on my interaction with Ding Darling in the coming months. So I will just tell you that Ding Darling is the person that really spurred me to become more active in sea turtle conservation. I began on Sanibel Island patrolling the beach as part of my federal duties, law enforcement duties. We on the refuge, National Wildlife Refuge, also had a co-commission with the state of Florida, and we could enforce Florida law. We were the only wildlife officials on Sanibel. Back in those days, the state game and freshwater fishing never came to Sanibel because in 1939, Sanibel became a state sanctuary with a governing board called the Lee County Refuge Commission, and they had the supervision of wildlife law enforcement on Sanibel for quite some time. So I would patrol the beach. I guess I was mostly harassing snook fishermen that were out along the beach at favored fishing spots. And I'm sure that I had bad words spoken about me during those days, but I kept harassing people on the beach, and I'm sure I saved quite a few adult turtles in those days. And then I began to try to protect nests by using different chemicals and techniques. I used setting cabbage palm fronds afire and rubbing them around the perimeter of the nest to try to curtail raccoons from detecting the turtle eggs that were buried some 6 or 8 inches underneath the surface of the sand. And this worked sometimes, I think, but it never worked completely successfully because back in the early 60s, about 75% of all of the loggerhead turtle nests on Sanibel were being dug up and consumed by raccoons. So they had a lot against them. In 1964, I decided I would begin to tag sea turtles, and I had some Monell metal tags left over from my alligator tagging days that were provided by the Sanibel Captiva Audubon Society. And in June of 1964, I applied one of those tags to my first loggerhead turtle. These were the same type of tag that were being used in other parts of the world for sea turtles, so the type of tag was adequate. And I used those tags all the way through until 1968 when the supply had dwindled. And then I contacted the famed green turtle expert, Archie Carr, at the University of Florida, and he supplied me with a series of tags that I used from approximately 68 until about 1970. Now, back in those early days, one of the elements of sea turtle conservation was head starting small turtles. The state of Florida had a green turtle operation, and one of their people were involved in raising young green turtles over at the House of Refuge Museum over at Stewart, Florida. There was a man down in one of the keys. I've forgotten which key. His name was, last name was Cruz. I believe his first name was Rusty. And a few other individuals tried to Head Start turtles. But we wanted to go a little more elaborate. So in 1968, we officially became Coretta Research. We worked out an agreement with the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation that they would sponsor us, and funds that were donated for sea turtle conservation would be given to the Conservation Foundation, and they would distribute those monies to us for sea turtle conservation. So the first real conservation effort we made, as I said, was a head starting project. We would collect eggs from turtles out on the beach, mostly eggs that were somewhat jeopardized. They may have been deposited too close to the water. They may have been deposited too close to a bright light. All of those things, the lights and the possible erosion, could certainly endanger the turtle eggs. So we took those eggs to the headquarters of the refuge at the lighthouse, and I built a wire enclosure, and we began to deposit the eggs there inside that fenced area. And in the meantime, we built a series of tanks that could house live hatchlings, and I made an arrangement with the men that leased the Tarpon Bay Marina, which was actually eventually on refuge lands, but they controlled it, so they gave me permission to build a sea turtle nursery on the Tarpon Bay property. And we did that. We had a number of turtle tanks, and we collected, I don't know, several hundred, maybe 1,000 hatchlings from our hatchery at the lighthouse. We put them in these tanks, and I have a photograph here of the turtle farm, as it was commonly called at Tarpon Bay. And it's rather unusual, but that fenced area with the reed fencing was situated just about where the recently constructed marine laboratory of the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation is located. And we reared these turtles. I had an agreement with the Organized Fishermen of Florida, a commercial fisheries group on Pine Island, and they furnished me frozen catfish they had taken out of their nets and saved especially for the turtles. And I would go over to Pine Island, pick up a load, bring them back to the hatchery, and we had a large commercial grinder, and I would grind up the catfish, and that's what they were fed. Well, all was going well and good the first year in 1969, and then we had a unusual cold front come through in late November, and the temperatures plummeted. They got down into the upper 40s, and there was no way that we were set up to heat the water in our tanks. The water circulated 24/7, but we had no heating capability, so we lost quite a few turtles, to my chagrin. Well, at the end of the 1969 nesting season, we took our first batch of hatchlings down to the lighthouse. We had good press coverage, in the local newspapers, the island newspapers, and we had hordes of people show up for a release, and this is one of the many public releases that we hosted at the lighthouse. Excuse me. The next summer in 1970, we conducted the same program, picked up endangered eggs, moved them to the lighthouse, took the hatchlings to their nursery, and lo and behold, we had the same problem with cold weather, and we as a group, Coretta Research, we decided that this was not going to be a feasible operation, so we decided to shut it down. So it only operated for 2 years, and then we decided that we would go out and conduct primarily field work, gathering data, nesting data, data on the individual nesting turtles, and continue tagging the turtles. And of course, by being on the beach, we were protecting turtles. Now this episode has gone much longer than I had planned to. And I said we may have 4 segments, but I think we may go beyond that, because if I get carried away on the subject, I may talk for more than 4 episodes. So I believe I'll cut it off there. I hope you gained something from this, some historical background, and we'll get into some of the people that became associated with our program, some of the interesting things that we discovered about the nesting loggerheads of Sanibel and Captiva Islands. Now, I think I should state that I've talked primarily of loggerhead turtles because back in the 50s, 60s, and basically the 1970s, the only turtles that nested on these barrier islands in southwest Florida were loggerhead sea turtles. But after I had retired from the sea turtle conservation field, suddenly a green turtle nested on Sanibel, and then more green turtles, and then Kemp's Ridleys were found nesting on the beach. Even leatherbacks, sea turtles, have nested on the beach. So today it's a wide variety of sea turtles that are being dealt with by the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. And I think it's rather dramatic and outstanding that sea turtles have recovered to such an extent. I think it's really great. And the sea turtle that I worked on so hard for many years is now in good hands. And I can sit back and read the data and just admire how well it's going. So at this point, I'll close the episode. I want to thank you for your attention. Please, as I said, if you haven't subscribed to Sanibel Chronicles, please do. It's very important for the longevity of this channel. I need subscribers and I need likes on YouTube. Please subscribe. Thank you, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. The reason I'm about 2 days late is because over the week I was finalizing publication of a new book that I wrote. It's called Ponce de Leon, Calusa Indians, and Sanibel Island, 1513 to 1521. It's a historical book about how those 3 subjects interacted during that period in the 16th century. If you like Sanibel, like its history, want to know more about the Calusas and old Ponce de Leon, who discovered this place called Florida, you can check it out. You can look at a reading sample on Amazon. So at that point, that's not meant as a commercial, but I think I can discuss some of my projects that I work on. So I did. And at that point, I'll close out. Thank you very much.